This is Sangita Ebony Lodge, a place where elephants pass your plunge pool and lions call through the night. It's not a resort, it's a front row seat to the African wild, wrapped in quiet luxury and grounded purpose. And it's just one chapter in a new kind of safari story. Sangita Ebony Lodge sits in a quiet pocket of the Sabi-San Game Reserve, tucked along the Sand River in South Africa. It's not flashy, it doesn't try to dazzle with gimmicks or over-the-top theatrics. Instead, it offers something rarer, comfort that respects its surroundings. This place wasn't built to dominate the landscape, it was built to fit into it. From the main lodge to the 12 private suites, the architecture blends raw timber, soft linens, and stone in a way that feels connected to the land, not imposed on it. Each suite has a private deck and plunge pool, but the real draw is what happens just beyond the railing. Elephants wander by, sometimes close enough to see the texture of their skin. You can hear lions at night, not through a speaker or on a game drive, but from your own room. For guests, that's the appeal. You're never far from nature, but you're never uncomfortable either. The staff anticipates needs before they're spoken, and the food is more than just food. It's quietly excellent, served in a way that doesn't distract from the moment you're in. But what really gives Sangita weight is what happens behind the scenes. This isn't a place that exists for just tourists. The company has been involved in conservation efforts for decades. It supports anti-poaching units, funds local schools, and partners with community-driven development projects across the region. Their commitment isn't window dressing, it's real, and it's long-term. The lodge operates with an understanding that the wild spaces surrounding it can only thrive if the people living nearby benefit too. Some guests who stay here don't know about the foundation work when they arrive, but most leave talking about it. For many, it's their first time seeing a luxury business tie its success so tightly to the well-being of a larger ecosystem, both ecological and human. It's also what draws a certain kind of traveler. You won't find Sangita splashed all over influencer feeds or used as a backdrop for branded content. Its reputation has grown more quietly, mostly through word of mouth and return visits. Names like Leonardo DiCaprio and Oprah Winfrey have stayed at Sangita properties, not for attention, but because of the experience and the values behind it. From the outside, it looks like another luxury lodge. But once you're there, you realize it's doing more. It makes you feel part of something, even if just for a few days. It's not just about watching wildlife from a comfortable chair, it's about understanding your place in the landscape, and knowing that someone is working to keep it that way. From the banks of the Sand River, we journey to a lodge that has redefined luxury safari. Royal Malavane doesn't feel like a resort, it feels like someone built a luxury home in the middle of the bush and then quietly invited only the people they really wanted to spend time with. Located in the Thorny Bush Private Game Reserve near Kruger National Park, it's the kind of place where you wake up to the sound of elephants moving through the trees and end your day soaking in a clawfoot tub while watching the sun drop behind the bushveld. The setting is wild, but everything about the experience is calm and composed. There is a sense of ease in how they've put it all together. Open-air lounges, with worn leather chairs, polished wood floors, and antique pieces that don't try to compete with the view. The suites aren't overdone, just comfortable in a way that makes you want to stay in them longer than you probably should. It's not surprising that Royal Malavane has become a regular escape for celebrities like Bono and Elton John. People like that have the option to go anywhere in the world, and they come here to not to be seen. One of the things that sets Royal Malavane apart isn't just the design or the privacy, it's the people. The guiding team here is often described as the most qualified on the continent. And that's not a throwaway line. The field guides and trackers working here are not only highly certified but also deeply experienced. This matters when you're following a leopard through dense brush or sitting in a vehicle with a pride of lions just a few feet away. You want to be with someone who understands the animals, the land, and the right way to move through it. The experience isn't rushed. You won't find herds of tourists elbowing for camera space. The lodge limits the number of guests to keep things personal, and each game drive feels like it was put together just for you. You could spend the morning tracking rhinos and then come back to a breakfast table already set on the deck. The eggs made how you like them, the coffee poured before you ask, and it's not showy, it's just thoughtful. If you're not into game drives, that's fine too. The spa is one of the best in the region. And not just because of the setting, it offers full treatments, a gym, a lap pool, even yoga sessions if that's your thing. You could go your whole stay without leaving the property and still feel like you've had a full safari. Royal Malouine manages to walk a fine line. It delivers real, raw nature without giving up a single luxury. It doesn't feel like a theme park version of Africa. It feels like the real thing, but curated by people who truly care about the place. And for the people who come here, that's exactly the point. Sawalu Kalahari doesn't feel like a resort, it feels like a world apart. It stretches across more than 110,000 hectares of land in the southern Kalahari, yet there are only a handful of guests at any time. You don't come here to check into a hotel, you come here to disappear into one of the most remote and untouched corners of South Africa. The landscape isn't the kind of safari scenery that gets plastered on brochures. It's not lush, it's not dramatic, it's quiet, sparse. Orange sand and acacia trees, meerkats standing guard in the heat. Rare species like the pangolin and the desert black rhino roam here, and if you're lucky, you might even catch a glimpse of a brown hyena or the elusive aardvark, which feels like spotting a ghost in broad daylight. The Motse and Turkuni, the two main lodges, are designed with that same quiet confidence. They don't scream luxury, but it's there in every detail. The thick linen sheets, the raw stone tubs, the fact that you never need to ask for anything twice. Tarkuni used to be the private home of the Oppenheimer family, who owned the reserve, but it still feels like one. Not a mansion, but a home with space, silence, and intent behind every choice. What separates Sawalu, though, isn't just the design or the scenery, it's the way the whole place is run. Each booking comes with a private vehicle, guide, and tracker, which means your days are catered entirely around what you want to see and when. Want to spend 6 hours following a cheetah on foot? You can. Prefer to watch the sunrise in total silence before riding out on horseback across the dunes? That's fine too. Behind it all is a conservation model that works. The reserve was pieced together from over 40 former farms, land that had been degraded and stripped of wildlife. Over the past 2 decades, Sawalu has brought it back to life. Reintroduction programs, research centers, and a total refusal to allow hunting have turned it into a sanctuary, not just for animals but for scientists too. Researchers from institutions around the world study everything from insect migrations to climate patterns right here in the middle of this vast desert. The local community isn't left out either. Sawalu runs a health clinic, fund schools, and trains staff in everything from hospitality to wildlife management. When guests tip at the end of a stay, the money doesn't just go into pockets, it goes into programs that keep the entire operation moving forward. For travelers used to scripted game drives and generic lodges, Sawalu is something else entirely. It's intimate without being invasive, luxurious without feeling excessive. It gives you the space to slow down, to watch a lion sleep in the shade for an hour and not feel rushed to move on. In a world chasing speed and spectacle, Sawalu is content to do the opposite, and that's exactly what makes it uncomfortable. Londolozi doesn't try to impress with excess, it never had to. What makes this place special isn't the thread count of the sheets or how many spa treatments you can squeeze into a day, it's the feeling that you're part of something bigger than a vacation. It's been that way since the 1920s, when the Vardy family began building not just a safari lodge, but a philosophy. Set in the Sabi Sand Game Reserve, which shares an unfenced border with Kruger National Park, Londolozi has grown over generations into something close to a private wilderness. The name means protector of all living things in Zulu, and it shows in how they do everything. from the way they treat their land to how they work with their staff and surrounding communities. This isn't a corporate luxury brand parachuted in to throw up a few tents. It's a family-run operation, and that energy runs through the place in a way you don't find often. There are 5 camps, each with its own character. Some feel like private residences with just a few suites and outdoor showers tucked into the trees, while others offer a more communal feel with shared meals and group game drives. No matter where you stay, there is an attention to rhythm and stillness that makes it feel like less of a hotel and more like a retreat. Days are built around the bush. Early morning drives, long lunches, naps when the heat picks up, then back out in the evening light that makes everything glow gold. The wildlife experience here is exceptional, especially when it comes to leopards. Sabi Sand is one of the best places in the world to see them, and Landalosi's guides have decades of knowledge passed down from trekkers who have walked the land their whole lives. You don't just see animals, you start to understand how they fit into the larger ecosystem. There is a quiet respect that shapes every encounter. Landalosi has also been ahead of the curve when it comes to how safaris interact with local communities. Their programs focus on education, sustainability, and economic development. Things that sound like talking points until you meet the people involved. The Good Work Foundation, which has partnered with Landalosi for years, runs digital learning centers across the region. Staff aren't just employees, they're part of a system that's designed to benefit everyone, not just tourists. That blend of purpose and place is what keeps people coming back. It's not about checking off sightings or chasing Instagram likes, it's about stepping into a slower, older rhythm that still works. One where people and nature aren't kept apart but invited to learn from each other. For guests who arrive tired from the world they left behind, that shift can be surprisingly moving. Landalosi doesn't scream luxury, but it doesn't need to. It's comfortable, quiet, and confident. And that's exactly what makes it unforgettable. When Richard Branson puts his name on something, it's rarely subtle. Ulusaba is no exception, though it doesn't scream wealth in the way you might expect from a billionaire's private game reserve. Instead, it blends into the Sabi Sand landscape with the kind of ease that suggests someone knew what they were doing when they picked the spot. Ulusaba means place of little fear in the local Shangan language, and that idea of feeling at ease even in the middle of wild is built into everything here. There are 2 lodges on the property, Rock Lodge and Safari Lodge. Rock Lodge sits high up on a kopie, a rocky outcrop offering views across the bush veld that stretch for miles. From that height, you can watch elephants move through the trees like shadows and see storms roll in long before they arrive. It's quiet up there, but not in a boring way, more like the kind of silence that makes you want to sit still and listen. Branson reportedly spends time at Rock Lodge when he visits, and you get the sense it's been shaped by someone who likes to entertain but also values space. Safari Lodge is set down by the dry riverbed, a completely different experience. Here, the rooms are connected by wooden walkways suspended above the forest floor. You might walk to breakfast and spot a Nyala grazing below. The architecture doesn't fight the setting, it plays with it. Rooms have open views, big soaking tubs, and outdoor showers that make you feel like part of the landscape without giving up any comfort. The staff remembers your name, your drink, how you take your coffee. It's personal in a way that doesn't feel forced. Game drives at Ulusaba are what people fly across the world for. You're in open vehicles with rangers who actually know what they're talking about, not just ticking boxes. This is prime leopard country, and the guides know the territories, the family lines, and sometimes even the habits of individual animals. You're not rushing from sighting to sighting, you're learning how to watch properly. What sets Ulusaba apart, though, is that it doesn't feel like a hotel. It feels like someone opened up their home and just happened to be incredibly good at hospitality. Branson's influence is obvious, not in the decor, which leans more African lodge than British Billionaire, but in the energy. It's relaxed, a little cheeky, and not interested in being too formal. There are wine tastings, stargazing dinners, even a spa built into the cave, but the real luxury is time and space. For people used to the noise of cities and schedules, Ulusaba offers a way to slow down without ever being bored. It's not the flashiest lodge in South Africa, but it's probably one of the most personal. And in a part of the world where nature already does most of the talking, that's exactly the point. Mellowed House doesn't look like a traditional safari lodge, and that's exactly the point. Tucked deep within the Lapalala Wilderness Reserve in South Africa's Waterberg region, it trades the old-world colonial look for something clean, minimal, and surprisingly modern. If most safari accommodations feel like a throwback to a Hemingway novel, Mellowed feels more of like a quietly confident answer given to the question, what should luxury in the bush look like today? The house itself is a single private residence. There are no other guests, no shared spaces, no check-in counter. It accommodates up to 16 people, which means it's usually booked out by one family or group at a time. You get the whole thing to yourself: the house, the private chef, the spa, the vehicle, and the guide. It's not a hotel with stuff fluttering around, it's more like being handed the keys to someone's modern estate, only that estate happens to be surrounded by 50,000 hectares of protected wilderness. Lapalala isn't packed with lodges or overrun by safari vehicles. It's one of the less commercial reserves, and that's exactly why people like it. You don't come here for high-drama sightings every 5 minutes. You come to watch wild dogs run, to hear the difference between a hornbill's call and a fish eagle's cry, or to sit in silence while giraffes pass in the distance. The pace is slower, the experience feels more real. Inside the house, everything is designed for comfort without fuss. The architecture is low impact, with solar panels and rainwater harvesting systems woven into the property. It's the kind of place where luxury means space, light, and privacy, not chandeliers or gold trim. The spa is on-site and fully equipped, but it doesn't interrupt the landscape. Floor-to-ceiling glass walls look out onto the plains. You can get a massage and still see impala grazing nearby. One of the things that sets Mellowed apart is how intentionally it's built around the idea of conservation as a lived value, not just a buzzword. The Lapalala Wilderness Reserve was founded by Clive Walker, a conservationist known for his work into rhino protection and environmental education. The reserve is home to endangered species like black rhino, roan antelope, and pangolins, animals you don't always see in more frequented parks. And the lodge team is directly involved in that work, from anti-poaching efforts to ecological monitoring. Guests aren't just observers, they're welcome to ask questions, visit the Lapalala Wilderness School, and see what protection looks like in practice. Mellowed House is luxury, yes, but not the kind built to just impress. It's quiet, spacious, and built to last. And for the people who come here, that's enough. You're not being sold an experience, you're just being given the space to have one, surrounded by the wild, with no distractions other than the sounds of birds and the occasional grunt of a hippo across the water. So which of these luxury safari lodges would you choose for your ultimate getaway? Share your thoughts in the comments below.